Hello, everyone, and welcome to this product demonstration, how to nail the e-invoicing supplier onboarding process. This session is brought to you by IOFM and sponsored by Tradeshift. My name is Mark Brousseau, President Brousseau & Associates. I'll be your moderator for this event. I have just a few housekeeping notes to go over before we get started. If you have any technical questions or issues, please use the chat box and a member of the IOFM team will respond to you right away. If you have any issues with audio, please click to make sure your computer speakers are on. If you happen to get disconnected, you can log in again using the instructions provided in your confirmation email. And most importantly, we encourage you to ask questions throughout our product demonstration. I will ask our presenters to respond to your questions at the conclusion of their product demonstration. Simply type your questions into the chat box to submit them to me. With the do's and don'ts out of the way, it's time to introduce our presenters for this product demonstration. I'm pleased to be joined today by Mac McLaughlin, Regional Vice President of Sales for Tradeshift, and Jim Naraki, Team Lead for US Pre-Sales. And with that, I'm going to hand things off to Jim and Mac. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the intro. Let me just share my screen here real quick. We'll get started. Wait 1 second. Get you back. Why aren't I? Oh boy. Hold on 1 second here. I hate when this happens.
I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
Okay. I hate when this happens.
Mac, trust me, there are lots of people on the line who can sympathize with you after the past year's events.
All right. I'm ready to go. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I guess I could start off by saying, we're saving the best for last. James and I are the ones that are in front of you for your dinner, but I'm not going to say that because you already know it. We're going to talk about and show you some what I think is key tidbits of success when you're doing an e-invoicing project, okay? So we want you to think seller first when you're thinking an e-invoicing project. The supplier onboarding process is actually the most critical step in an e-invoicing project for success. This is the process of collecting documentation and information on your sellers or suppliers, setting them up in your system, evaluating them, approving them, adding new suppliers, getting their products so you can buy them, accepting invoices from them, and then paying them. It's that whole process. And if you get it right, you nail the seller onboarding, you're going to be on the future path to digital transacting. If you fail, you're forever going to be pushing paper and PDFs. It's just a fact of life. So the whole world is going digital. We've got to get our sellers on board, and we're going to show you some good ways on how to do that. So why the shift to seller first? Unfortunately, statistics show that most accounts payable departments have a problem getting their sellers or suppliers on board and submitting e-invoices. Matter of fact, Ardent Partners did a recent study and found that 25% of a company's sellers would typically be onboarded. 75% won't, and that's a problem. And that's what we want to focus in on today, okay? So let's take a look at some other data points for your reference before we get into the demo. Another reason why we have an issue of suppliers onboarding and transacting digitally is that Forbes did a study and found that 47% of the buyer-supplier relationships fail. Collaboration efforts fail. And asking your supplier to provide electronic invoices is a collaboration effort. And they fail due to lack of trust. It's been the history we've had. I'm not getting any value by doing this. this is all for the buyer, there's nothing in it for me, is typically what sellers and suppliers say, okay? Another reason that you would want to get your sellers on board is that your sellers today are probably taking up at least 22% of your AP's time in just responding to what I would call supplier support inquiries. Did you get my invoice? When am I going to get paid? Should we put in a credit note on this? Just typical interactions, which are done via email and by phone calls, right? But it's a lot of tactical work that isn't necessary in a digital environment. Disconnected suppliers are drowning your AP department. I'm sure some of you on the call listening to this today would be shaking your heads if I could see you. Flood of supplier inquiries that come in. It seems sometimes the phone never stops. You constantly have to collect data. Thousands of data points for your suppliers. And if you have a lot of suppliers, that's a big task. Broken and inefficient communication channels, working in silos, not having an easy way to communicate, collaborate with your supply base. And in a digital environment, those are some of the benefits that you'll see as we go through our demonstration a little later. At the end of the day, no digital means more manual. Many as 3 out of 4 suppliers are not connected to you digitally, and it shows. How does it show? It shows in the fact that you still got paper that you're dealing with. It shows in the fact that we have to look at OCR technology still to do something with our paper, okay? You're not going to be able to be agile. You're not going to be able to quickly move when paper is still in the mix, okay? We want to get rid of that. But the key is getting your suppliers on board, okay? You put the seller in front and center, and you're going to be on a faster path to ROI. Let's look at a couple of companies. I'm sure we all know Unilever. Unilever did this. And they're now working digitally with thousands of suppliers in over 100 companies globally. And their support calls were reduced to near zero. Now, I can't say zero because there's still calls coming in, but I think the number is 0.5% today is their suppliers that have to call for support. And the reason that they were able to do this is that they took a seller-first methodology and approach as they put in an e-invoicing system. Another one would be Novozymes. You know, when you're digital, you now have the ability to leverage newer technologies, artificial intelligence, and get to a point where you can do straight-through processing. You know, straight-through processing sometimes is referred to as touchless processing. But if I can have my technology handle all those tactical tasks that are normally done, why do I have to have humans look at it? Let's just send it on to be paid, okay? You're going to find our talk that Tradeshift is more about automating the transaction than we are automating the process. And James will go into a little bit more detail about that when he shows you the demo. But that's a big differentiator when we're looking at becoming truly digital. Let's not automate the processes of the past. Where were they born out of? They're born out of legacy. Let's get rid of processes that are unneeded, and let's focus on digitizing the transaction, okay? OCE, another one where they digitally connected all their suppliers and partners, and they now have gone in a 3-way match environment electronically from 30% success rate to over 90% success rate. And again, that just reduces tactical time spent on trying to pay a bill, right? All right, drivers of onboarding success. What we're going to do now is we're going to be switching it over to James, and James is going to talk about these items here and dive into the software to really bring home the point when we talk about instant value for sellers or additional value, flexible onboarding, things like that. The first and foremost, though, is you need to have a seller-first onboarding strategy. That's key because that has to be a mandate. And once you do that, again, I'll say you're on the path to that future digital path is well within reach. With that, I'm going to turn this over to James. James, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to put it over to you.
Sounds good. Let me know when you can see my screen, Mac.
I can see it.
All right. So, part of taking on that seller first value-based onboarding strategy is getting instant value out to the suppliers and your sellers, even without them registering, right? We talk about this a lot of times. What we hear when we talk to our customers or new opportunities that come in the door is, we made this decision to automate our AP. We're having a hard time getting suppliers participating. Why are you having a hard time getting suppliers participating? Well, they don't want to pay a fee, or they don't want to register. They don't want to have to log into a portal to do stuff. So we took that feedback and said, right on, that's exactly how it should be, right? You shouldn't have any of those barricades up there, and we should provide instant value. And what's that mean? Let's take a look at what that means, right? If I'm a seller that has any invoice with you in the system, one of the first things Tradeshift does is backfills, takes all the active invoices that are in your system, regardless of how they came in, backfills it up onto the platform, takes all of that information, all the approval data, and then we can send notifications out to your suppliers via email. Hey, do you want to see what's going on with your invoice? Right? You can track your invoice right here. And without even being a member or signed up or registered as a supplier, I can look in and see my upcoming payments. I can see all of the different invoices that are out there. I can see when the expected payment dates are on those specific invoices. I can even log into a specific invoice, see where it sits in the approval process, as well as what the estimated payment date is. Now, this is most of the time what they're calling you about, right? When am I going to get paid? Did you receive my invoice? Can I get this? We've eliminated that without them having to take a single step, right? They haven't had to go in and log in. Now, we've also, in the meantime, while we take all of this invoice information and make it available to them, we've backloaded information so that it makes their setup easy. And Mac's going to talk about that really quick before we go into it. But again, if we go back, instant value for sellers. Instant means it's there for you, that you don't have to do anything to get it. And again, dangle that carrot, right? Hey, do you want to see this? Sure. And make it available. There's no charge. There's no anything that they have to do other than click, and they can see the status on those.
Great. So thank you on that, James. So now, once we've tickled them a bit with information, we now give them the option, your sellers or suppliers, to go and create a profile on the Tradeshift network. Now, what's really interesting about the Tradeshift network that's different from all other procurement networks or AP invoicing networks out there, the traditional networks are a hub and a spoke type of design where the buyer is in the middle and each spoke represents a connection to a supplier. That's great for the buyer, not so great for the supplier. So what we did is we created a network that is very similar to LinkedIn, meaning you set up your profile once, and then you are invited by other customers that would be on the Tradeshift network to connect, and it's still that same single profile. So what we're doing is we're reducing portal fatigue wherever we can with the suppliers. And there's some additional things as well that they're going to have access to once they complete their profile. James, would you show us how they could do that?
Sure, absolutely. So, if we go back, right, they just get a request to complete the setup. And we want to make this super easy. Only I completed it one time ahead. It's I already completed the setup for this one. I apologize. But it's a 4-step page that comes preloaded. And once they're preloaded with that, and they go and confirm their information, right? What their name is, their location, all of that. It sends them an email link. They need to simply just go through, enter a password, and then they're in, and they get access to a much more rich experience than what we saw from clicking the email link now, right? So they've got a dashboard available to them. They can see all the invoices that they have out there. They can see the different statuses, anything that's been rejected. They've got access to drill right into the invoices or drill into those small categories of invoices, right? So if I got a notification that something's been rejected, I can go in and see why. They've also got the ability to share information. A lot of times, on an annual basis, we need things back like insurance certificates, maybe a W-9 update. If I add another child branch unit on that I want to do business that's closer to you as a customer, I could add them and make a connection. We need to share that information. So, we've got surveys and questionnaires built in, and we're going to go through one of those later and take a look at it. But again, we want to make it simple. They've got their own profile out there on the platform so they can be found. So if someone's looking to find good services or products, it's free for them to have all of this out here. I'm in his discount office supply. I've got basic website information, basic tax identification. I can upload certificates. I can also upload any kind of marketing material I might want available. So we can put movies out here, images of products, things like that. And then I can also see my network, right? Who I'm connected to. And Mac talked about it like a hub and spoke, right? I log in once and I can see all the different customers I have in one spot, and I can see all my transactions with them. I don't have to log in with a Tradeshift ID and then log in with a CN Rail ID and then log in with the Strack Industries ID, all of these things to see the invoices that I've sent to these people. I don't have to do that. I have one login and I can see all of my transactions, regardless of which of my backend systems they came from.
Mm-hmm. The other key thing here that what James has shown you for the supplier is it's all free. We want to remove all the barriers and we want to give them the best experience possible, because we think that the best portal for you, the buyer, is the portal that the suppliers want to use. And that's how you're going to achieve success. Okay, another area that we focus in on is an onboarding toolkit. Numerous ways for your suppliers to connect with you, because one size does not fit all. We have flexible intake options such as integrations and uploads to the system in an integrated type of environment. For example, if you have SAP or Oracle, we have pre-built connectors that we can leverage to have that integration done. Web and PO flip invoices via our user interface. Some of your suppliers are small. Some of your suppliers don't have a lot of technology. Pretty much though, all your suppliers are on the internet over the weekend, so they can get to a web URL. So they have the ability to quickly submit an invoice, flip a PO, not a lot of work on their end. Invoice file conversions, as well as email invoices with attached PDFs. We get a lot of PDFs in. One common technology that's been out there for a while has been OCR technology. OCR technology is probably going the path of EDI. Its need is diminishing over time. So we want to give the ability to still be able to take in, like say, PDFs, but have it digitally converted automatically for you. And at the end of the day, there's going to be some that still want to send in mail. We can do that as well and leverage the technology. We may have to use OCR. We work with OCR partners. But the point being is that one size does not fit all. There's many different ways that you can get invoices into the system. And we do a pretty good job of affecting all of them. Okay, James?
Absolutely. And to those, right, and to that fact of having multiple ways to get in and get connected comes the app store out here, right? So we want to make it simple. We realize that the biggest or toughest area to address is that long tail of suppliers, that smaller suppliers that are 1 to 10 invoices. Right. So we've got these pre-built connectors like Mac talked about. Oops. And let's refresh. I don't think I was logged in there. Those pre-made connectors, right? So for instance, if I run QuickBooks, right? It's not a major ERP. It's not a big ERP, but if I'm sending you an email, I could connect directly to my QuickBooks Online account by entering some basic information and turning it on. And we've got a bunch of them out there, and we make them as we get new systems coming in, so that it's repeatable, it's easy, so that when new customers come in and they say, we have suppliers using this system, oh, well, we've got the connector. You can just turn it on, put your information in, and away it goes. We want to make it simple. Again, I think Mac talked about bridging that weekend gap, right? We want to make it simple for the suppliers and offer technology to be able to meet them where they're at.
Awesome. Keep going.
Yeah. So the next part is that enriched data. And that kind of comes down to, one thing that we always talk about when we're doing supplier onboarding with our customers is, how many vendors do you have in the vendor master? And, we get that answer, oh, we have 15,000 in the vendor master. And then you go, okay, well, how many of you transacted with in the last year? And inevitably it drops 25 to 50% how many vendors they have, right? And, that arises from trying to keep all that information up to date and not having a good way to get that information or receive it digitally or ask for it digitally. So what do? Oh, I'm doing business with a new child branch here of a company. You know what? I'm just going to create a brand new company in the vendor master, rather than go through and do that. And you get orphaned vendor master records, things like that. We want to make it easy for you to go and put together those requests. So from a buyer's standpoint, you can easily create forms that are requesting data. And again, from our dashboard here, as a supplier, when I receive a new one, I'll get a request saying, hey, you've got a new questionnaire that's come out, right? And I can see I've got one that's asking me to update my insurance certificate. I've got one that's asking me to upload my W-9 information. So when you have new suppliers come in, super easy to go through. You can have free form screens. You can have preloaded text screens out here, as well as you can have the ability to go through and, I can add it or upload a file from my laptop, right? So we make it very easy to go in and put that information up there and then submit it back in and make sure that you get the proper information. And what that means is, back end costs get reduced for IT, right? To maintain 10,000 records as opposed to 15,000 records in the vendor master, it costs you 30% less. That's just a fact. So enabling those tools to help you with that is another add-on when we digitize that connection between the buyer and the supplier.
Awesome. All right. Now, we're at a point where you got your seller onboarded. There's a ton of value for them to participate. We're not going to be onerous with invoice requirements. And what I said, we're going to eliminate processes, but automate the transaction. This is really what we're getting in at. And the other key thing you need for success is a clear mandate and support from you, that you're letting your sellers know that there's a seller first mentality here. And they're very much part of the project, an integral part of the project. Here's the good news. You can continue going on. One more. Okay. When you offer sellers data, insights, instant value, you're going to be rewarded. And what is that reward? That reward is going to be an AP automation project that is A, successful, B, got the majority of my suppliers digitally connected, and you're going to see efficiency gains like you've never seen before. As a matter of fact, James, can you show them what our AP automation looks like after a solid supplier participation rate?
Right. So now, we've digitized these connections. We're eliminating all of the issues that we could have with an OCR and error of recognition and all of that. It's digital on one end, digital receiving on the other end. There's no conversions happening in between. And what that enables us to do is eliminate some of the old processes that we have in place, right? So for instance, on the buying side, if I'm over an AP or I'm an approver over there, right? When an invoice comes in, we can automate things like GL coding. We can automate and do non-PO automated approvals now, right? We know the information's coming in correct. We know that we've done business with the supplier a bunch of times. We have hundreds of thousands of invoices of data to compare to invoices coming in to score and say, does this invoice kind of fit in the box that we want? We can assign threshold boxes. So, for instance, I've got an invoice that came in here from Georgia Power. It's for $1,400. We could have a threshold that says that, on these recurring non-PO invoices, if it doesn't go outside of a certain amount, maybe $500 in a month, we want to auto pay it. The other thing we can do is have the AI engine, come in and automatically code it, right? So put in the power distribution GL coding on this non-PO. It knew the company code that it was supposed to go to based off of where it was being delivered. It knew the cost center based off of the approval hierarchy in the background that it could look up, as well as comparing it to old invoices in the system. And it knew the GL code. And these are sample codes, and a user could change them. But the fact of the matter is, what it allows you to do is sit there and say, hey, things that I couldn't automate before, or items that in legacy invoice automation systems would require you to have a template to manage, right? I could always go in with some Boolean rules and say, hey, when it comes in from Georgia Power to CN Rail and it's under $1,500 and I see supply, apply this coding. And when I see delivery, apply this coding to it. And when I see taxes, apply this coding. And, that's 3 rules for one invoice, for one business user, for one supplier that came in right there. So, what we ran into, and I've worked at other companies before in the past, what you run into is going through upgrades and things like that. When rules change, all of a sudden they have, 500 Boolean rules that only Mac knew, and Mac moves on to another company and they got to go in and try and figure out how to change those and update them. We eliminate all of that. And moreover, instead of managing the rules, what we can do is have the system for a while automatically do this, right? This invoice was non-PO, came in with no coding. You can say, all right, this is right, assign approval. And then after a while, you can change the threshold so it automatically just goes through for payment. And we're eliminating a non-PO coding process. We've got full audit trail on it, and we have visibility into it, right? That you could see at the beginning, or the supplier could see it. You've got full visibility into it, seeing it via documents, and we enable collaboration as well. So if there's a question about it, and I have any type of question here, I can go in, I could ask accounts payable a question. I could ask the supplier a question, very quick. It'll open up a conversation where I can chat with Georgia Power. All I need to do is go in and say, hey, looks higher. And, we can communicate back and forth and work out any issues that we have. And it's fully tracked at the transactional level. So when auditors come in, again, Mac talked about the communication layers earlier. When auditors come in, you're not trying to look through your email, or, man, if 2 years ago you figured that out over the phone, good luck trying to figure out why, if it falls outside of a specific rule that you have in your company. But here we can see all of that. Mac, was there anything else you wanted to add on?
No, I think that's good. I think, so in summary, one more, buddy. Focuses on seller value for e-invoice success. Key thing, using carrots, not sticks. So in the past, we've done things like, you will participate in my program or you won't get my business anymore. Is that a carrot or a stick? I think it's a big stick. A carrot, one of the things that we didn't touch on but is proving to be very successful, is an early payment option for suppliers. So where you have your standard terms, a carrot would be the option or availability of a new form of financing that is affordable. I don't want to use the word cheap, but it's inexpensive, and it goes a long way to unlocking liquidity for your suppliers. Again, instant value from day one. You know, how many times some of you may have gone through this where you've participated in an e-invoicing program, you've sent out supplier onboarding notifications, and the supplier logs into your new portal, and what do they see? Nothing, because you haven't transacted anything yet with the supplier. That's where we're changing the game, by taking the information out of your ERP system and making that visible day one to your suppliers. Again, free of charge. They didn't have to do anything. Discover more value add for the sellers. A platform like Tradeshift gives them more to do. It opens up your sellers to more business by being on the network. And at the end of the day, again, I can't say this enough, put the seller value front and center in all of your onboarding efforts. You'll be rewarded by doing that. One more, and with that, at this point, you know, this is what we planned on sharing with you this afternoon. I wanted to leave time for Q&A. I think, Mark, at 5:03, we're kind of right on target.
Perfectly done, Mac. So we're entering the Q&A portion of this product demonstration. If you have thought of another question for Mac or James, or if you haven't had a chance to ask your question to them, go ahead and use the chat tool on your screen to submit them to me now. We'll ask as many of questions as time allows. Gentlemen, the first question's from Loretta. She's wondering what's involved in integrating this with my ERP. What IT resources are involved? Generally, how long does it take?
Great question. I'll take a stab at that, James. And if you want to add something else, you can. First of all, it depends upon your ERP system. And that's going to be determined what technologies we would use to integrate. For example, if you're still running BPIX, then we're looking at probably a flat file transfer of integration. If you're running some of the more modern ERPs, the SAPs, Oracles, those two in particular, we have developed connectors, which decreases the amount of human effort needed to create integrations. From a standpoint of how much time does it take and how long, again, it's subjective, but you know, we're probably looking at a couple of weeks per ERP system to get the integration done if we have a connector. If we don't have a connector, it may take a little bit longer, but it just depends on what you have. But I will say this, we've got over 600 customers today globally. Every single one of those customers was a AP automation / procurement project. And every single one of those customers was an integration project. So we do integrations in our sleep. It's part of the offering. Hope that helps. James, you have anything to add?
I mean, Mac, I think you answered it. You answered it well. I think that if you think a week sounds long, it is more. That's the back and forth, right? We've got the connector. We get the information from your IT. We send test messages, we pull test messages. It's not a week straight there, right? It's the back and forth. But yeah, we do integrations in our sleep. Every single one of those 600 enterprise customers has multiple ERP systems that we connect, you know, one instance of Tradeshift up to, so they get that complete visibility.
Next question is from Dan. He wants to know more about the analytics available with your solution.
Sure. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, we have multiple analytics options, right? So we've got native analytics that are built into the system. We've got connectors for all the major analytics engines. So if you're running a Tableau or a Good Data or something along those lines, we've got connectors built in so we can integrate your AP analytics into your everyday enterprise analytics that you're using. So there's quite a few options out there. And then we've also got third-party apps that run on the platform as well. So, when we went into the app connectors, you could also turn on an analytics app and be able to take a look at everything out there.
Cheryl wants to know more about the workflows available in this solution. Can I configure workflows to review certain invoices, even if they match data?
Absolutely. So you have the ultimate flexibility in there. So based off of any business rule scenario and any data in an invoice or in an order, we can utilize that to be able to configure a workflow specific to your business requirements. So it's definitely not a one flavor fits every company. We want to make sure that we have the ability to be flexible for your business requirements.
Thomas wants to know how big a company needs to be, or how many invoices do they need to receive each month in order to realistically cost justify this solution?
Good question. So we have customers today that I would say annual invoices, the low end, 50,000 invoices a year. And the high end, it goes into the millions, as you can see by some of the names of companies that are on the screen in front of you. We can definitely get into the millions. But I would say from when I know, the smallest is around 50,000 annual invoices a year.
Lorraine is asking about your percentage of invoices that are posted directly to an ERP.
So that depends on the customer's business rules.
Mm-hmm.
It depends a lot on if we're doing three-way matching, we can do up to seven-way matching. It depends a lot on the information that comes in from the purchase order as well, right? We have customers that will only pay on the order, and then if the invoice matches up, it's fine. We have customers that sometimes have a hard time keeping their ordering systems and their prices for those specific items they're ordering up to date, and they won't match, and that'll trigger a update to the ordering system where they're going to go through and make a change to that. But again, it's all about the comfort and the level of data that's out there. We have some where three-way matching that are in the 90 to 97% range of invoices going straight through. And then obviously if we've got backloaded information and correct information coming in on some of that non-PO, we can get that high easily with that, as long as everything's falling inside those business rules, right? So if I get a power bill that falls within $50, give or take, for a specific business unit, a small office or something, I can have that go straight through. That's going to go through 100% of the time, unless it's $75 off and it falls outside the rule. So
Jim wants to know whether you offer a procurement module.
We do. Do you want to go over that?
Yeah. What we offer from a procurement standpoint is the whole concept of marketplaces. This is where, we talk, James and I, on a regular basis about how can we bridge the gap from Sunday to Monday, meaning we've got employees that are technologically proficient on Sunday, but not so much on Monday. Why? Well, I think we all know it. So we have a procurement application that is similar look and feel to an Amazon, an eBay. It's a marketplace technology. Very, very powerful. So yes.
Yeah. I think this is a related question to something you brought up earlier, Mac. Susan wants to know about payments capabilities. I heard you say you have early payment discounts. Tell me about payments. Is it all integrated in one platform, or how is it done?
Sure. So our early payment offering is, again, a bit unique in the marketplace. We do not rely on a bank. We're not using your cash, okay? So what we have, if you remember, I explained the network is similar to LinkedIn, which means it's a many-to-many network. Very easy for third parties to interact with us and our customers on this network. So we have relationships with a couple of hedge funds that provide the cash. Now, if you looked at in the past traditional SCF programs, there's a lot of documentation that's needed. There's a lot of due diligence that's needed. And quite honestly, it's a long process. We've eliminated that by really focusing in on the data and making our risk-based decisions on lending on the data. So we showed you earlier all that invoice information right off the bat from your ERP system. You'd be amazed at the story your AP file tells us. It tells us a lot. It tells us when you pay. Do you short pay? Do you overpay? Do you pay on time? All of those types of things. And we make our decisions, lending decisions based upon that. Now, once that's all said and done, this is very fast. A supplier can look at an invoice on the platform and hit one button that says, pay me now. And they will then get paid via our hedge fund. You, the buyer, you pay the hedge fund at the maturity of that invoice. So if it's a 45-day invoice, your supplier can get paid in 2 days. You pay the invoice in 45 days. Or some customers are looking at this and saying, you know, I may want to extend my DPO.
Yeah.
I'll push out my terms from 40 to 60. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to have a carrot for the supplier. Hey, we're going to change our DPO from 45 to 60, but we've set up an alternate financing option for you. It's called Tradeshift Cash.
Yeah. Reggie wants to know what he ought to do with his existing OCR solution.
Probably keep it for another 3 years. And then after that, I think that's when we'll start seeing all the paper go away. I'm just being funny. I guess I was the only one laughing at that. So
I think James and I were speechless for a moment.
It's great that you have OCR, because that would be something that we would use, leverage, if you will, for the paper that's still coming in. But I will say this: once you have the right system in front of your suppliers, you will see a decrease in the paper, which then decreases the reliance on OCR.
So use it as a bridge technology, you're saying,
Yep.
Mac.
Yep.
Yeah. Donnie wants to know when he needs to put, or when he should put away the carrot and take out the stick. And what I assume he's alluding to is, when do I know I'm in the final stretch, the last mile, if you will?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for when you should do that. I guess when I guess I would say that when we've exhausted the bag of carrots, then you bring out the stick. Maybe it'll take 2 carrots, 3 carrots, but yeah, I'll leave that up to you.
One last question under the wire here. Teddy wants to know, can buyers pay their suppliers using your platform?
No, we're not a payments where we would do the ACH transaction for you or write a check on your behalf. No, that's all being driven out of your ERP system. We're not doing those types of payments.
And that's all the time we have for this product demonstration. I have just a few housekeeping notes to go over before we officially close out. We hope to see you in our town hall meetings and demo sessions and workshops throughout the week. We want to give a thank you to James and Mac at Tradeshift for a great demonstration. And thank you to all of you for taking time out of your busy days to join us. This session was brought to you by IOFM, and it was sponsored by Tradeshift. That concludes today's virtual summit event. We hope to see you all tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.